Hi everybody, welcome to Notes to Drutopia. Notes to Utopia, Utopia Academia, Drutopia HQ, it doesn't matter. You're here, and I appreciate that. And, you know, what I'm doing here is just be in a space where you can hopefully come and maybe learn about how we can make the world better into some like eco-sustainable future where we can all live and thrive together, and technology is taking care of all of our problems to the best degree possible. That's the goal here. Looking at those ways, encouraging people that future is a possibility, not to get so doomery all the time. And you know, if it means we have to touch into politics and we have to touch into science and all these fields of study and philosophy, my favorite, then gosh darn it, we're gonna do it. So yeah, thanks for showing up today. No real updates. The show plan today is, you know, we're gonna be looking at what Freethink has for us to encourage us about some new technologies, and then I have 2 reacts to do. I'm going to be looking at, a friend wanted me to check out this video from Russell Brand, is a character we have tended to like here on the show. Russell Brand is almost a pseudo spiritual leader, political. He does a political show, covers news, and he gives you updates to try and direct you in a more spiritual way of thinking. But I actually like his human connectedness viewpoint that he has. Thought I heard a weird glitch there from my computer. And we also have Wisecrack looking at how to sound smart about universal basic income, which is a lesson I surely need. Or it's a cheeky clickbaity title that's joking and being a little bit sarcastic, and maybe there's some kind of culture out there that is pretending to sound smart about universal basic income to sell their dumb ideas, which if I'm ever doing that at any point, forgive me, I honestly do think that a universal basic income is a necessary way forward in order for us to achieve world peace and end world hunger kind of deal. I know high lofty thoughts, but you'll get a lot of them here on this channel, so stick around for that. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but yes, universal basic income, the idea that everyone has $5 in their pocket maybe every day to get a sandwich, I think could really help. And you know what? It's going to do good for sandwich companies all around the world. So there's a market there, people. Okay. Anyways, so you know what? I'm going to turn off the music and let's get into, maybe start with this one, honestly, because yeah, I'm highly interested in what's going on right now on this video. Hold on. I'm gonna hear every detail. Have my mind properly blown.
You're 2 Chili's margaritas deep at girls' night when your fake friend Cassidy brings up universal basic income. A dab of salsa still lingering on her freshly waxed upper lip, Cassidy spouts off with the authority of a tipsy Nobel laureate in economics. You take an extra large bite of your quesadilla explosion salad to stall. You haven't thought about UBI since your brother-in-law got kicked out of his local Andrew Yang fan club. Cassidy's reign of intellectual terror must end. Hey, breathe. Don't freak out. We got you. Here's how to sound smart about UBI.
With your friends.
I am confused already. What is this video?
Or on a date. Arguing online with someone you hate. Conversation is an art, so let us tell you how to sound smart.
Here's a 90-second breakdown before you have a breakdown. Okay, Here's the skinny on Universal
Sup,
Basic
Johnny?
Income, aka UBI. UBI consists of periodic direct cash payments to some or all residents of a city, state, or country. It's like an allowance from your cold, emotionally distant stepdad, the government. Most UBI plans propose payments ranging from cheap computer, $500-ish, to
Good. How are you? Sorry, I was reading your text, but I'm like also like super into this. How you doing, Johnny? What part of the world are you from?
Here's a 90-second breakdown before you have a breakdown. Okay, here's the skinny on Universal Basic Income, aka UBI. UBI consists of periodic direct cash payments to some or all residents of a city, state, or country. It's like an allowance from your cold, emotionally distant stepdad, the government. Most UBI plans propose payments ranging from cheap computer, $500-ish, to fancy computer, $1,200-ish. It's not a new idea. The ancient Romans tried UBI in a few different forms, including giving everybody grains so they wouldn't, starve to death. In modern times, UBI programs have been piloted in states like Alaska and Mississippi, and countries as diverse as Finland, Namibia, Iran, and Spain. UBI is rooted in the idea that things like food, housing, and medical care are human rights, not fun perks like a Roomba or a cruise to Bora Bora. It's less of a social safety net and more of a floor to stand on. UBI is meant to supplement existing welfare programs, not make them magically disappear, like your imaginary friend Alfred after he told you to steal that hot dog from 7-Eleven. What the fuck, Al? Proponents say UBI would efficiently grow the economy and lift communities out of poverty while zapping pesky bureaucracy and a Torah scroll's worth of paperwork. Some opponents counter that it doesn't focus enough on those most in need. Others say it's too expensive, or that it would make people stop working and start taking bubble baths in tubs full of free money.
Why would it not help those most in need? Like, couldn't everyone apply? Like, couldn't we make it really simple and have it be, give everyone a phone to download their app or whatever? Maybe they're thinking of sending checks, but I don't know. I feel like if that's really a problem for people who are homeless, we should be able to use the technology that is every individual is able to keep in their pocket, utilize that. That would be stupid not to.
Work. Some opponents counter that it doesn't focus enough on those most in need. Others say it's too expensive, or that it would make people stop working and start taking bubble baths in tubs full of free money. They say, people will spend the money on drugs, gambling, and niche pornography. You say, well, the whole point is that people should decide for themselves what to spend money on. Still, people generally use UBI to pay for necessary basics, things like food, housing, and medical care, not Princess Diana Beanie Babies, much less Princess Diana Beanie Baby pornography. They say, UBI won't even make a dent in America's poverty problem. You say, it's for sure not a cure-all, but it has delivered. In India, it improved everything from nutrition to school attendance. The same thing happened in Namibia, plus poverty-related crime fell. And in a small American experiment, a basic income helped more than 1 in 3 people get permanent housing. Seriously, it's like Oprah, but for houses. They say, this is communism, socialism, cannibalism. You say, not so much. Communism and socialism both involve a much greater redistribution of wealth, not to mention public ownership over resources. That's why
I actually haven't heard anyone say that it's communism, which is good. I think that, I don't know, it is a new way of looking at capitalism. And Andrew Yang was always saying that. It's like, it's capitalism where that doesn't start at zero, something like that. And it's good because we're in a game of, making enough money to survive. And I feel like that game is a little 20th century and we're in the 21st century. We should respect humans' ability to die easily a little bit more from starvation and, the elements, and try and help each other out, whether you want to call helping each other out in a community communism or just being good, normal human beings.
Plenty of socialists think UBI isn't nearly radical enough. While UBI redistributes some wealth at a federal level, it's a much better soulmate for capitalism. That's because it empowers people to spend more money and thus buy more shit. And capitalists get real hard when people buy shit. They say, no government could afford this. You say, so that's complicated. A real UBI program for sure would not be cheap, and it would obviously increase the federal deficit.
Honestly, it is a way for businesses to get back money that we pay in taxes, right? We pay in taxes, it costs a lot. We're getting a universal basic income though, and then it's back in our hands as the people, and then we buy things from each other, and we're all more satisfied. And, you know, we're making profit on our businesses, we're selling items, getting more items, and the government, we're happy about their choices that they made, and we like our UBI maybe, and it solves some problems. It's just like, it's a good idea. And this video is like really cringe in some ways, maybe in a lot of ways even, but it's not shooting down UBI like I thought it was going to. It's a really weirdly kind of like phrased video. I don't really understand it.
A lot. But it would also be a huge boost for GDP because, again, people buying more shit. And speaking of federal deficits, Cassidy, please complete my Venmo request from June 2019. Thank you. They say, give people free money and they won't show up for work. You say, okay, regardless of how you feel about UBI, this is just not true. Tons of studies have shown that people don't just quit their jobs because of UBI, because duh. It's not like you just won a $42 million Powerball. UBI wouldn't be enough to comfortably live off of, especially if you dream of one day becoming a plant parent, dog parent, or parent. Blow their minds. Oh god, things are deteriorating. Sharon still thinks you're talking about UTIs. Cassidy's crying and clutching her purse. It's time for a pivot. Here's how to blow their minds. To cool things down, you say, so the funny thing about UBI is it's been super appealing to a lot of random people across the political spectrum. Fans include founding father Thomas Paine, libertarian economist Milton Friedman, Martin Luther King Jr., and even iconic sweaty boy Richard Nixon. Today, Silicon Valley bros love it because it basically preserves the status quo, with a few extra bucks in everybody's pockets for in-app purchases. Across the board, liberals, libertarians, and even some conservatives are all pretty horny for UBI. Isn't that interesting? So now you know how to sound like a freaking genius about UBI. It's time to down the last dregs of your jalapeno margarita, take a breath, and wipe that queso-stained smirk off Cassidy's face. Our work here is done, and you are officially brilliant. See you next.
Dang. I mean, that video did do what it said it would do, but again, in like a super cringy way. But hey, you know, this show's about the cringy, okay? Once we accept we are cringe, it allows us to become our true selves, okay? So I encourage you to do your cringe, because this video will, you know, potentially help the world in some fashion. So, oh no. We appreciate the hard work that they do on this website, okay? Good job, Wisecrack. Thank you for, I mean, UBI has not a lot of faults, okay? There's a lot of people who are nervous, and to that, I'd say listen to the responses on this video. And if you have any other like things that make you nervous about it, I'd like to hear, because honestly, I've thought about it for a long time, and I just don't really see anything better for everyone. It just would make things function better. And I think that our governments don't like things functioning that well, because it keeps them richer when we're needy. Ooh, that reminds me of the next tab. Russell Brand, he's going to tell us, hang on, have we all been conned by January 6th? He's a bit of a thinker. He understands conspiracies, the true conspiracies, and he will dabble in the questioning of real or I should say, more questionable conspiracies. Ones that are more easily debunked. But it is important to know about real conspiracies as they appear. So let's see what kind of conspiracy, true or not, we are about to learn from Russell Brand. And maybe we will learn something fantastic.
January the 6th. Was it an act of terror, an insurrection, or were they brave patriots pursuing justice in a corrupt system? Or are both parties using this event to create more power and close down personal freedoms? Let's discuss it.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, both parties are doing... Okay, well, this isn't a conspiracy. Both the Democrats and the Republicans suck. They just suck in their own ways. Republicans like the status quo and their power, and Democrats like the status quo and their power, but they have different means of, controlling and giving us little nuggets, right? Liberals will give us, showy things to pretend like they care. And Republicans don't. They cut off all government spending, even if it's for good things, right? Democrats will actually spend things on communities and for the people, while Republicans will cut things off and say we're saving money and it's all about saving money. So I don't like that. I don't give a fuck about saving money in the government and the budget. The budget's just something that they hawk on about so that they can excuse themselves not doing anything and lining their pockets, right? So the fact that Democrats often go in and make changes that we ask for, even if they're small, it's better. So
Hello there, you 4.7 million wonders. Continue on the path, be brave, stay awake. Don't let them divide you, don't let them diminish you. Let's stay present, let's stay free. Let's have a look at this story. Now, some people watching this will think that January the 6th was an example of people getting together to stand up for their rights. Other people watching this will say that it's the worst insurrection that ever happened. Let's have a look at some of the reporting around this subject and see if we can get some kind of transparency, some kind of clarity around this matter. The Capitol riot has frequently been compared to the 9/11 World Trade Center attacks by media commentators and government officials.
This has happened, and it is bullshit.
And even former President George W. Bush. On the one hand, the comparison is absurd. While nearly 3,000 people were killed by terrorists 21 years ago, only 5 died in last year's Capitol siege. 4 of them, the rioters themselves, the attackers in the analogy, and 1 officer who died of a stroke after the event. However, the 2 events do have some stark parallels. Each was an avoidable security failure, received a mountain of fear-inducing media coverage, and has since been used to justify further centralisation of repressive government powers. That's what's interesting to me. As you know, when it comes to political tribalism, the tribe...
Yeah, it's weird to think that, like, the elected officials are saying they're comparable for a different narrative, but I do think that they are comparable in the response from the government, obviously trying to incorporate more security on the general public and such things like that.
I belong to is the tribe of personal and collective freedom beyond divisionism, that we have more in common with one another than we'll ever have with the elites that govern us, and we have to find ways of coming together and overcoming our prejudices and biases to create new spaces, new systems, new communication. The response to the...
Interesting. He is drawing a line between elites and government and the people, which is not an arbitrary line. I have to ponder that, because I don't like them versus us kind of thinking, and I don't think that Russell Brand really likes that kind of thinking either. But I feel like he's trying to use it to give a message to the general people that we're all in this together. Don't fight your neighbors, over parties and stuff. It's the real elected officials with with their own agendas that aren't on our side.
The events of January 6 has been marked by a crackdown on dissent, a dramatic increase in anti-protest bills around the country, including at least 88 that have been introduced since the Capitol riot. A massive build-up of the Capitol Police into a national force to target terrorism, as well as the rollout by the Biden administration of a sweeping domestic counter-terror strategy. The vilification of people that have a different political perspective from you might seem enjoyable when you agree with it. But if it is used in order to bring about legislation that further empowers people in positions of authority, they will use that power however they see fit. And eventually it will not be to your convenience, because in the end, don't you, that the government operates in order to service the interests of powerful corporations supported by the media. So there might be a bit where you get the rush of, I don't like those people either, I think they're idiots. Whether you're a person that's in the BLM camp or in wherever you stand on social justice issues, or whether you're a Trump supporter, it doesn't actually really matter. There's a centralized authority that doesn't care about your stuff. Your stuff's irrelevant to them. They don't care about your flag. They operate at a level of global power that is beyond the reach of such trivial, petty alliances. While establishment Democrats and commentators called for the many non-violent January 6 participants to be harshly prosecuted, even charged with felony murder, some judges and prosecutors opted for leniency, acknowledging that the actions of many of the individual rioters often boiled down to trespassing, as Politico reported. Even FBI Director Christopher Wray noted that peaceful protesters and those who got swept up for committing low-level trespassing were the vast majority of the participants. Of course, you see similar reporting around BLM. Some people say, hold on a minute, look, all these shops again.
Low-level trespassing? Is it just because they were ignorant about their trespassing? Because what about it makes it a low-level trespassing? If I went into my school after hours and hopped a fence in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, that's low level. But this is the capital, okay? The federal capital, right? I just don't agree that that's a low-level trespassing, but I agree that it's just trespassing, and maybe some of these sentences are too harsh.
Getting burnt down, other people saying largely peaceful protesters. So, of course, what you have to have is a lens and rubric that does not alter dependent on the issue you're discussing. Obviously, we have a lot of strong feelings about the nature of the protest and the substantive message behind it, but the act of going to protest at the Capitol building, people demanding to get into the Capitol building, I think it's something that people on the left should be able to relate to and identify with, says James Clark, a civil rights lawyer based in Austin, Texas. Especially after the George Floyd uprising, we should be extremely concerned about any expansion or legitimization of the federal government in cracking down and going after protest activity. In a way, wouldn't it be beautiful if the people from the Capitol January 6 insurrection or disturbance or whatever you want to call it, and the people that are involved in the BLM movement could go, so, right, one thing we're totally agreed with is that the machinery of power is not working in the interests of people. Now, instead of focusing on our differences, like that, our focus is around these aspects of identity and your focus is on this aspect of economics, why don't we agree that what we want is a different system and come together and forget about this triviality, because even though there are aspects of it are super important, it's not as important as the entrenched, immovable, corrupt systems of power that love it that we're spending all our time quarrelling and quibbling over this, and in fact use it to introduce further legislation to prevent our feelings ever being represented at a democratic level. So let's do the work to get there. The days and weeks.
Wonder what work he's interested in. Because he doesn't really give too many examples, but it would be interesting because, I don't know, it is kind of a weird pettiness that started from George Floyd riots, right? And it's yes, the powers that be in our cities, right? Police officers, this institution is cutting into how we're able to live freely in the Black community, is the message that BLM put out there. And it's, it's personal on that level. And then I'd say the insurrection, January 6th insurrectioners fighting the powers that be, were fed a lie, or maybe they weren't. I'm just saying, it went to court, and the people who started spouting the information from the highest office that the election was stolen was the president of the United States. and no one agreed with him except for his followers that it was stolen, right? Everyone in Congress verified the election, and the people who believed Trump won decided that their cause was righteous because their guy lost an election, and figured that this was where they would finally draw the line, right? Not because someone died, and not because there was blatant proof, objective proof, right? All these conspiracies are just still that. They can say it's been proven, but when you ask them to show you the proof and the evidence, they can't bring it to you. So, but when you tell them to show you Black people being killed on the street, we do now have video to show you, unfortunately. The striving of these protests have legitimate proof, right? So I like what Russell's trying to do here and bring us all together. It's just difficult when you have a side with a concern and with proof, and then people start, rioting and agitating, whether it's people from that side honestly feeling like they need to, bring down the society that we live in, like he's saying is kind of a good thing, Russell is, right? That desire. Or there's actual police infiltrating into the riots and causing agitation and breaking things to make riots look worse than they were, right? So we have these things on both sides and of these riots, if you're trying to compare them. But it's hard to get it's hard to get on their side about this, right? And for some reason, all lives matter people just couldn't get on the side of this legitimate concern that people had in the Black community about how police treat Black people differently, right? So they want to say that's a conspiracy, but there's individual cases and years and years of proof, and we have a history in this country of racial differences that make a big ass difference. We have slavery, people. Hello, wake up. So I like what Russell's trying to do here. He's trying to bring people together, but it's kind of dumb. But it's good-hearted. And I agree with him. We should put, everyone should be Black Lives Matter. Everyone should be All Lives Matter. They should get along. They should stop opposing each other, right? That it's just, you can't just say, oh, both of them need to be recognized as true. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where I'm getting at.
weeks and months after January 6 should have prompted some difficult questions. What created the profound mistrust of political institutions that undergirded it? What was the role of corporate power in what happened? And how could it be curbed? Instead, a prosecutorial push combined with relentless and often error-laden media coverage of the events fed into an accelerating narrative about growing disorder and lawlessness, which Republicans seized on to advance an authoritarian agenda against the left. Alluding to Capitol riot authorities in Florida, prosecuted anarchist and Black Lives Matter protester Daniel Baker purely over speech and social media posts, sentencing him to nearly 3 years in prison. So this dude that's on the other side, inverted commas, of the political spectrum was prosecuted using legislation that was there to condemn people that he, rather no doubt, would think, oh, I hate those dudes, but really, you're no different. It's like sport, really. You think that, I hate that football team. You just people that support football teams. But they've wearing a blue top. And that's what politics is to them. It's a game. And I draw your attention to the fact that Republican and Democrat Congress members in roughly equal proportions are profiting from insider stock trading information and will only support bills coming in that have loopholes so they can continue doing it. They've obviously got more in common with one another, working in the same building to the same end, having gone to the same schools, and lobbied by the same companies than they do with you and your apparent adherence to ideologies around whatever social movement floats your boat. And I recognise the importance of all those social movements. In Florida, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis invoked the Capitol riot to reintroduce and pass into law a repressive anti-protest bill that had previously failed. In a video promoting the bill, his party placed footage of the Capitol breach side by side with that of George Floyd protesters, making the case that such out-of-control protesters needed to be subdued. So the issue doesn't matter. While you might see George Floyd and the Capitol riots as distinct issues, that Republican lawmaker put them side by side and used them to pursue his own agenda of creating and generating and instantiating more anti-protest law. It's no different to them. 88 such anti-protest bills have been introduced around the country since the Capitol riot, according to the International Centre for Not-for-Profit Law. Does that have to exist, the not-for-profit law? That should be all law. This law, though, isn't even for profit. Oh, thanks. 33 of those bills were introduced in January 2021 alone, with several, such as Florida's bill, coming within days immediately after January 6, and another 32 introduced in February. 11 of these post-January 6 laws have so far been enacted, giving authorities wide latitude to prohibit or punish protesters. So whatever you think about that event, whether you think, oh, I hated those guys, those hicks, or I love those guys, those freedom fighters, the consequences of it are anti-protest legislation. So if you think there might ever be something you don't agree with happening as a result of your government, their relationship with the media and big business, then you should be concerned. And if there are other people that are up for getting out on the street and protesting, you should be looking for alliances, not differences with those people. Republicans have often pointed to the protests of the summer of 2020 to justify this authoritarian crackdown, but lawmakers in Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana and Oklahoma, as well as Florida, have all cited January 6 to justify these repressive measures. More broadly, the themes officials have drawn on to sell these bills, widespread property damage, violence, disrespect and danger towards police officers, have echoed the themes of media coverage that prevailed in the weeks and months after the Capitol riot. The only way I can understand this is in terms of sport. Like, I watch a team against my team do a foul. Oh, you animal. My team does a foul. Oh, well done though. Good. You're playing. It's a game that we're trying to win. We can't afford to have the kind of tribal dumbness that sport allows us in politics. Because they don't have integrity, we have to have integrity. Because they don't have authenticity, we have to have authenticity. Because they lack transparency, we need it in high doses. Otherwise, the landscape is governed by edicts that benefit them, plainly, evidently, used to create legislation that enhances their power. The event's clear.
I know. Can't we be smarter in electing these people? Honestly, please. That's what I'm saying. Bernie Sanders is an independent. Look for your independents, okay? They're much better than Democrats and Republicans. Kidding, but
Serious legacy is the expansion of the Capitol Police into a national anti-terrorism force that operates largely free of public accountability. That's what the world needs in the wake of recent events. A force that does not have to operate under public accountability. Democrat Representative Benny Thompson, chairman of the House Select Committee investigating January 6, has said the committee will recommend new intelligence gathering legislation. Wow. More opportunities for the government to spy on ordinary people, legitimised by the accusation of...
Yeah, I didn't realize that not only is it more spying stuff, but it's anti-protest stuff, which just is like the funniest anti-American thing. You know, it's like, yeah, you can keep your guns, but if you protest and like break a window, you're gonna, you're gonna, you know, hear it from us. We're gonna put you in jail for that. So it's like less violent things than guns are going to be illegal in some states. That just blows my mind.
Terrorism. Just as many rank-and-file Democrats are becoming increasingly supportive of government surveillance and institutions like the CIA and FBI. Another example, you remember, like, you know, oh, the CIA, FBI, they're the baddies. We're in power now. I like them. I like the CIA and FBI. They're good. They're necessary. They're servants of America. The Biden administration has also...
What the fuck? That's like literally... it's literally been... what? The Republicans' take on police, and literally everyone on I don't know. I'm doing a two sides thing, right? But this article that he's reading
I like the CIA and FBI. They're good. They're necessary. They're servants of the baddies. The CIA
says just as many rank and file Democrats. It's doing team language, right? I just have to make it clear that Republicans are, you know, typically in support of law and order. That's FBI and police. The CIA probably plays into that too, but it's more spy stuff. It's cool. Like every Republican wants to be a CIA or FBI agent, but you know, doesn't like the whack big government.
CIA and FBI. Another example, you remember, like, you know, oh, the CIA, FBI, they're the baddies. We're in power now. I like them. I like the CIA and FBI. They're good. They're necessary. They're servants of America. The Biden administration has also increased information sharing between different authorities and released a domestic counter-terror strategy that would target what it calls domestic violent extremists who are motivated by a range of ideologies, listing environmentalists. Oh, boo. I mean, hooray. Anti-capitalists. Boo. I mean, hooray. And animal rights activists, among others. Such language mirrors the rhetoric used by law enforcement officials and members of Congress in counter-terrorism hearings.
Environmentalists? That's crazy. I mean, yeah, I guess we're protesting to stop the corruption of the government and fossil fuel industries. Just drilling and cutting down trees. But you know, I guess I should be on a watch list for that.
After the event, who paired January 6 with George Floyd protesters or anarchist violent extremists as proof of a rising terrorist threat, stressing that extremists who committed crimes across the political spectrum need to be targeted while advocating a new domestic terrorism law. According to data from the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, as of February 2021, domestic terrorism cases were on track to beat the record 183 cases recording in 2020, with 54 filed in Washington, D.C. after January the 6th. In September 2021, FBI Director Wray testified that the Bureau's domestic terrorism caseload had more than doubled since 2020, as have the number of personnel working in the area. So essentially, more power, more authority, more laws, more cases, more benefit to the powerful. So this is a clear demonstration that any differences that we feel we might have with other people have to be put aside in order to create systems that are broadly more fair. You'll notice over the course of this report that we're saying the word Democrat and the word Republican in roughly equal measure, almost as if they're the same basic thing with the same basic intention, and to get caught up on the trivial differences would be akin to caring about the colour of someone's hat while your house is burning down. Recent history shows what such repression could look like. In the wake of the 9/11 attacks...
I did say that at the beginning. Like, they're both into the status quo. They just do it in slightly different ways. But like Hassan Piker does, he thinks that the only way forward is to push Democrats from the left, not from the right. We're not going to be making any progress from the right. We have to push the closest thing to a leftist party, which Democrats are very far right in all intents and purposes in the world of what left and right means in terms of the economy and how workers, working class, and ruling class work together. America is very much center, or right of center. We have to push left ideas from the Democratic side because they're able to budge. Okay. But ideally we can, like Russell Brand is also an idealist, thinks that we can do it by our own means, and I respect that and I want that. He's just got to give me more.
Federal authorities routinely use the expansive new anti-terrorism powers passed under Republican President George W. Bush to target progressive activists, dissidents, immigrants, and Muslims. The breach of the Capitol happened in large part because law enforcement was asleep at the wheel, if not willingly negligent, not for a lack of repressive government powers. Enacting such laws won't solve the underlying structural issues that helped lead to the Capitol riot happening, or the economic dislocation that clearly fed into its participants' delusions. In a sense, the solutions that are sought are always the repression of the symptoms of dissatisfaction rather than the problem itself. Generating more power, more legislation, more ability to repress ordinary people, more ability to control protest will not solve the problems that America is experiencing. It will just mean that we can stamp out the fires that people are starting because of their dissatisfaction, no matter what political ideology they believe they are doing it in support of.
You never use words carelessly.
Trigger warning. Ted Cruz. Sorry.
Ted Cruz is a pretty fascinating character.
You never use words carelessly.
Ted Cruz is a pretty fascinating character with regard to this issue because on a Comedy Central montage, I see a bit of footage of him like standing up in front of a crowd saying, "Let's go get them." And now Tucker Carlson is dragging him over the coals for calling those people terrorists. Let's have a look.
I mean, there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am.
Good skills from Tucker, setting Ted Cruz up nicely there with a compliment.
And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on.
Well, Tucker, Jesus, don't kill me.
When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter.
I sent you a text, remember, and then I leaned over and put my hand on your thigh and thanked you.
And said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa, I don't buy that.
But he's stopping him in the middle of his apology. I don't buy that. I don't like that apology. Where's the power in this situation? It's with Tucker, huh?
Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
Just don't. Go on. Ted Cruz had to text and ask to come on the TV and experience this.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say.
Firstly, I love you, and I'm sorry. Secondly, is this good enough?
What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. A lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word?
Why'd you say that? Even if you hit a cop, don't say the word terrorist. Tucker Carlson doesn't need to run for president. He already is.
So why'd you do it?
So, Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I used that word for a decade, I have...
Russell, don't say that. Don't suck Tucker Carlson off, okay? He's icky.
referred to people who violently assault police officers.
It's just my special word. My special word for someone who violently assaults a police officer is terrorist. And it's another thing. I like to call my Winky little tiger boy. Now, if you heard me say that, maybe you'll think I was strange, but that's just me, my special words I use. Ted Cruz, interesting, because when it was convenient to get people all riled up to facilitate and encourage the protest or insurrection, or however you see it, that took place on January the 6th, he done that. Now it's convenient to call them terrorism in order to facilitate more legislation being brought in that can repress protest. He'll call them that. So next week there might be a new word that they call them.
I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the
That's a good point.
assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again.
Wait. I also like Tucker Carlson's general. Like, no, it's like he's sort of rubbing something off of a whiteboard. Like, no, that's not good, Ted Cruz.
Can I just ask, hold on, you work in the I guess I just don't believe you.
This interview will have to end with Ted Cruz polishing, at very least, Tucker Carlson's shoes and possibly his reproductive organs. That's where the power lies in this situation. More importantly and more significantly, there are no significant differences between us, no matter what we may feel, no matter where our emotions may lead us. Rationally, we have...
Ew, that's so weird, Russell. Why? He just like liked Tucker giving it to a person of authority so much he had to like platform Tucker Carlson in a good way, which sure, he did it. He made Ted Cruz look like a fool. Awesome. I'm glad that happened. If that's the content that Tucker Carlson put out that day, awesome. But all the other I don't want to be that guy, but I don't know. I've just seen the footage of Tucker Carlson parroting white supremacist talking points and actual white supremacists loving Tucker Carlson for basically being like, yes, he's doing the messaging. We watch his show once on my own, and then we watch it again to really take in how he gets the messaging into words that are palatable for the public. Like, they are taking direct lessons on how to keep America like a white ethno state from Tucker Carlson's talking points. And he's sick in that way. You can argue whether he is a supremacist himself, to what level, practicing, yada yada. Take that as you wish. But his main writer, got fired for being a white supremacist and having white supremacist views on the internet. He had to get fired for that reason. Tucker Carlson has new writers, okay? Because his old white supremacist writer got fired, okay? This is not good content to be putting on a pedestal like Russell Brand just did. So in that regard, I really don't like that Russell Brand put that clip there. Did the clip have a neutral message? Yes. Did Tucker Carlson in that instance do a good thing for the people? Maybe. Against power, did he make a guy with power trying to abuse his power look like a fool? He might have. I'd say maybe even yes. I'd say yes. But Russell didn't need to go that far into praising Tucker, saying that he was pretty much the president, had all the power, he was just like building him up. And Russell Brand should know more about the bad things that come out of Tucker Carlson's mouth and mediate it. Russell, if you know, let us know before you show this guy on our screen, okay? That's all I'm saying. You can't just, when people don't have good intentions, but you like a quote from them, it can get dicey. That's all I'm going to say.
Have to look at what we share, what we have in common, what kind of legislation we want introduced, what ability to protest and be active in the decisions that control and govern our lives. Our duty is to look for alliances, particularly with people that we would usually see ourselves as opposed to. This is a journey we must undertake if we don't want to live in a highly regulated, legislated, increasingly penitentiary environment. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Do you think politicians use events to create legislation that advances them, regardless of whether they're Democrats or Republicans? Do you think some types of violence are okay and others aren't? Do you think some kind of protests are okay and others aren't? What kind of world do you want to live in? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what mistakes you think I've made. Let me know what you think of Tucker. Let me know what you think of Ted Cruz. Let me know what you think about January the 6th. Let me know what you think we should do now. Tell me what stories you want to see covered and how you want to see them covered. This is the only way we're going to evolve and grow together.
Right, he's going for 20 more seconds.
Open, transparent dialogue. If you enjoyed this video, have a little look at this one. Have a look over at my spiritual channel. Subscribe to this channel and subscribe to the spiritual side channel as well, so that you can get information about how to keep yourself together. Sign up to my mailing list too, so I can tell you what I'm up to. Like, for example, I'm live in the UK.
There's something like poetic about how fast he can talk. It's almost like a song or a rap. I'm like, I need to keep listening because it's just going on, and maybe it's coming to a conclusion that's going to, crescendo into some big musical number, and I don't want to miss that at the end. I was trying to do it myself a little bit, but you get the point. He's a very good orator, as he often respects other people. Let's see. The fact that politicians are trying to say this day had so much impact as 9/11 is mind-blowing. Crazy to me how Russell Brand has far more sensible and reasonable takes than anyone in the mainstream media. We know we are living in a clown world when Russell Brand is the most sensible and honest voice in media. The scariest day in congressional history is the day that citizens were almost able to access their representatives. That tells us a lot. That's a good take. And I think that we should have more access to our representatives. And just like this show, here on Twitch, you have access to communicate with me. And I could do a whole show where I am just communicating with you, right? I could just be talking to you, communicating with you for an hour. If I had a big group here, we could have discussions. If I was leading some kind of country, right? We could have intellectual debates, discussions. You could voice concerns. We could have dialogues. And we could, I don't know, steer the ship together, right? So I definitely agree with that commenter that our Congress people and government should be more accessible. And I think that we have the technology to do that, right? Twitch is a great example of having, an open line to our representatives. I think that would get really messy. Honestly, just having a messy chat where people could come in and just hate watch people and representatives, but at a certain level, I like the idea too. It could be good if they were good people, right? And if they weren't just shilling out for money and out for themselves and power and things, right? A Twitch channel for a representative with some heart could go a long way. That's my thinking, Russell. I'm not even going to comment, okay? I'm just telling you straight to your face. Okay. Now let's go over at least one or two of these.
I'm definitely producing tons of data every day. I think about my morning routine. First thing that I do is hop on my Peloton because I'm obsessed with closing my rings. After my workout, I'll head down to the kitchen and prepare breakfast. I'll make sure that I'm logging in every meal into that app. And then after that, I'm on my computer the rest of the day for work.
We are living in a society that increasingly is being powered by the data that you and I are creating every day. The internet is free, but the currency in the internet economy is your data.
This is what we can make into a currency that will be our universal basic income. It's our data. We should get paid for our data.
It's a convenient economy, but we never checked to see, great, what did we give up to get that convenience?
There are large technology companies that are making multi-billion-dollar transactions off of our data every day.
Your data is so valuable, but you are not a part of that final conversation, particularly when the money is being exchanged.
Imagine a world where you own and control who has access to your data, and you also get compensated for it. If people are making money off your data, so should you.
Ka-ching, you have been paid.
That's really the idea of Streamlytics. That's how it started, and that's where we're going.
Hello, getting your cut of data economy? Let's go.
Hey, Mandar.
Hey B, how are you?
I'm well. I'm excited. I heard you're going to be teaching me everything I need to know about the data economy.
I hope to be able to explain the balance of it all and you know the dirty side as well.
Let's go to a site you trust. There is a right click button, click that, and then you'll see inspect. Go to application. Oh, there you go. You can see the world of cookies. So think about it like this, right? If something moves across sites, right? Banana Republic or hbr.com, you're essentially being tracked. That's how a third-party cookie works. Somebody you didn't trust started to collect data about you. And imagine, right, on an everyday basis, you're buying a dress, you could be buying a car. So your data starts becoming worth that much more, right? And so the idea of the data economy is, without B ever knowing, B is now become a product. It's a marketplace. It's a marketplace of bees who are people who are getting traded every day in that ecosystem.
My mind is being blown, and I'm paranoid all at the same time.
And at no point of time did you realize that HBR asked you for your permission.
Now we've kind of been trained to actually just accept terms of services and now accept all cookies in order to just get access to a website.
That's just how business works. You can't escape these guys. The question is, who do you trust and who do you not trust? And at that end, it's a race to the bottom. And unless there is controls put back into it, I think we are going to be in trouble.
Streamlytics helps everyday
already.
people own and monetize their personal data, and then we help companies who are looking to leverage data ethically get access to that data.
I think before Streamlytics, I didn't know much about how to take back my data, or even the process of getting on these websites that I'm always on and literally triggering the pull for my data. I upload data from everything from Uber Eats to Netflix, wherever and whatever I'm consuming the most, that's the data I want to be intentional about uploading. It actually breaks down the process of how do you go to every respective website to pull that data. You then just simply upload that data set. And then it takes a couple of days for them to let you know how much you earned off that particular data set. In total, I've probably made upwards of $600.
If you want to upload your data every week, if you want to upload it every month, it's completely up.
You see that? 175 to $275 or something like that a month. That's a basic income, baby. Let's go. We are products, and that's what companies want to buy from us. And if you're into selling that back or keeping it, I guess it's your choice, but you can get paid for living how you do right now.
To you, and that kind of control is revolutionary.
It's equipping us with information that enables us to ask better questions, informed questions, and ultimately, I think that's what accountability looks like for these companies.
The data that we're acquiring right now is 98% from the African American community. But the goal is really to do that in other fast-growing communities around the world. Streamlytics has a lot of really great ideas and concepts that people are using now around data privacy, data ownership, data portability, but how do we really make that law? How do we make that a standard? And that's where clearance comes in.
Hi, Mr. Mini, geologist. Like that name. Also liked your intro. I'm Murdoch Nichols from Gorillas. How he introduced himself on Cribs. Okay, I see you. Big MTV Cribs fan. I appreciate that. Gorillas are good. Gorillas are good. They make bangers, but I don't know, what songs do you like from them? Also, do you care about universal basic income? Or controlling your data and getting paid? Because you're in the right place.
So, you know, there's a saying up here in Washington, D.C. that information is currency. And what that information is almost doesn't matter. But if I know something that you don't know, then I'm in the value position. So it has intrinsic value as well as monetary value because it tells.
All right, be back. I'm only going to be on for like 10 more minutes, so maybe follow. Trying to get to a goal, reach a goal, help a bro. But all right, see you soon.
A story about who we are. My name is Clarence Williams. I work with Streamlytics on data privacy issues to bring their big ideas to Washington, D.C.
Right now, the United States is the largest westernized country that doesn't have a federal data privacy law. Even China has one.
Wow.
So the question is, how progressive from a technology perspective is the United States?
Streamlytics gives you the ability to say, okay, we have a jump off point. We can start from here.
Google is deprecating the cookie, which means they're completely getting rid of it. The world is really moving away from third-party cookies and why first-party data really is so essential in the future of where everything is going. Streamlytics is really part of this transition between Web 2.0, which is like super social media heavy, companies are using your data, to Web 3. It's decentralized, it's privacy first, where people who are using the technologies have ownership and control over their data.
Truly, it's about leveling the playing field and knowing that everyone has access. Most importantly, everyone knows how to get paid from that data. And I think that, for me, is the future state of where Streamlytics has the opportunity to take us to. I'm definitely producing tons of data every day. I think about my morning routine. First thing that I do is hop on my Peloton.
I restarted, sorry.
Because I'm obsessed with closing my rings.
Interesting. Streamlytics. Let's see, they got a link right here, at least to their. Nice. 1 billion data points and growing. We'll give them a follow. Let's see their link tree. Angela Benton, one-on-one with Kelly. Coffee of City National Bank, a data portrait of Black America in 2020. Streamlytics home. Let's go there. The new Don Howard, human-powered data that powers the future. No tracking, no cookies, just human-led data. I was curious there at the end of the video. I was like, wait, if companies aren't going to be using cookies in the future, then like, am I going to get paid? What's more important, that I have control of my data, or that people want to like keep buying my data. Like, buy my data, damn it. It's good data. How our customers use it for strategy. Craft a unique strategy that sees blind spots. Build messaging and product positioning based upon insights on how your target customer engages with competitive products and content. Well, this is just like code. Interesting. I don't really get it. You're selling something here. Anyway, is this a good stream? Maybe. Was it not? Maybe. I don't know. That's for you to decide. But thank you for tuning in. Those who did, Mr. Mini Geologist, Johnny Sins. Appreciate you guys. You want to be up on the scoreboard? Then you know, I feel like you need to follow the channel and then chat, and I'll give it to you retrospectively. That'd be fun. Like to give out points. We're gonna do something with them later, I promise. And yeah, love you guys, love the planet, love each other, be good to each other. Dylan Tegg's Excellent Adventure said so. Keanu Reeves said so. And yeah, peace, love forever and ever. Get good sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow.